Hello and welcome to this e-learning course on driving safety awareness. Throughout this course, we'll highlight some key risks that pertain to driving safely and some mitigation measures that you can take in order to reduce those risks. This course is designed to provide information around driving safely and to raise your awareness of the subject. However, please be aware that this course is not a substitute for a professional driving course. For any clarifications, please contact your local OHS team for further guidance on legal and Ericsson requirements. At the end of this course, you'll be able to do the following. Recognise your responsibilities when driving. Be aware of the common risks related to driving. Be able to properly plan for a road journey. Perform a basic visual vehicle check on your vehicle. And know the Ericsson Safe Driving Code. The course consists of the following sections: how to plan and manage journeys in order to maximise safety and reduce the chance of an incident, how to conduct basic visual vehicle checks, the Ericsson Safe Driving Code and how it will help you drive safely. Section 1. Journey Planning and Management. When travelling on company business, it's important to plan ahead to eliminate or reduce your driving risks. In this course, we cover risk elimination methods, such as attending a meeting virtually instead of physically. If a physical meeting is required, then we'll cover the aspects of planning a safe driving route. We'll then cover some safety tips for when you're on the road, including when to take regular breaks. The first thing one should do is to ensure a risk assessment has been conducted. The purpose of a risk assessment is to ensure that any foreseeable hazards and risks related to the journey have been identified and appropriately mitigated to a reasonable level. In this section, we will cover some of the hazards that you should consider. If you need any help with your risk assessment exercise, please consult your local OHS team. Before embarking on a trip, please first consider whether travelling can be avoided by making use of virtual meetings, for example, Skype for Business. If this is not possible, try make use of alternative transport to driving, for example, via train, aeroplane or bus. If you do need to drive, ensure you plan a safe journey. When planning your route, consider these top tips. Schedule your journey carefully to avoid non-peak hours, particularly between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. You should always avoid night driving where at all possible. Be aware of road hazards and weather conditions and allow time for unexpected delays that these hazards and conditions may cause. Check all legal restrictions, including the allowed driving distances and times, and plan accordingly. Plan when and where to take rests. As a general rule, you should take a break at least once every 2 hours to prevent driving fatigue. Plan for food and refreshments, especially during your breaks. Make sure you stay hydrated and again consider possible delays that may affect these plans. Be emergency conscious by knowing what you should do in the event of an emergency. Perform a vehicle safety check before starting your trip. Do not take any drugs or alcohol when travelling. And avoid consuming alcohol the day before your journey, as this may still be in your system the day after and may impair your concentration and reaction times. You should make sure you inform your manager if you are on any medication. And finally, make sure you get a good night's sleep before your journey so that you are refreshed and alert. In this section, we covered alternative methods of attending a meeting, such as virtual attendance. In doing so, we avoid the risk altogether and keep you safe. So think about using the technology available to you in lieu of a physical journey. If a meeting cannot be avoided, consider alternative means of transportation, such as trains, aeroplane flights, or buses. If you do need to drive, make sure you plan a safe route in advance and anticipate any foreseeable risks, such as weather conditions. Plan to take rests at least once every 2 hours and plan for food and refreshments. Remember, avoid consuming alcohol the day before as it may still be in your system the day after. And make sure you also get a good night's sleep so you're refreshed and alert. Whilst driving, remember to avoid distractions and continue to monitor the road conditions. Section 2. Basic Vehicle Checks. In this section, we'll cover the pre-drive visual safety checks that you can perform to ensure that your vehicle and driving conditions are at a desirable safety level. Please note, it's crucial that you ensure your vehicle is compliant with local regulatory requirements. You should also make sure that the vehicle's manufacturer's recommendations for performing periodical vehicle inspections have been followed. For example, these may state that the vehicle is serviced and checked by an accredited professional every 5,000 kilometres. We will not be addressing these specific requirements within this course, but we will be covering the pre-drive visual safety checks that you can perform. Of course, you'll not be expected to do a full technical evaluation of your vehicle, but there are some simple checks which you can do ahead of your journey. Basic Vehicle Checks. Spare tyre and toolkit. Check that your car is equipped with a spare tyre and a tyre changing toolkit. The toolkit should contain a jack suitable for the weight of your vehicle and a wrench suitable for the nuts. You should also have a car warning triangle. If you need to pull over to the side of the road, you should place the warning triangle to warn oncoming traffic of your stationary vehicle. Fuel. You should make sure you have sufficient fuel for the journey, or enough to last you until you reach the nearest petrol station. Tyres. Your tyres need to be replaced periodically. This depends on their usage or following the recommendation of a professional. Visually, the tyre tread can also be a telltale indicator. For example, a tread depth of less than 1.6 mm could mean that your tyres need to be replaced. You should also ensure that your tyre pressure is checked on a regular basis, for example, once a week. And don't forget to check the condition of your spare tyre as well. Seatbelts. Check your seatbelt for tears, cuts, abrasions, or any other deformities. The seatbelt should lock when a dynamic force is applied and release when the force is removed. The seatbelt buckle should connect with the latch and should not come loose until the release button is applied. Mirrors. Your mirrors should be free of any cracks and clean so that you can clearly see what's going on around you. This includes your rear view mirror as well as your side mirrors. You should also check that the mirrors are correctly adjusted to your seating position so that you have an optimal view of the rear and side of the vehicle. Brakes. Make sure your brakes are in good working order. The best way to do this is to listen for any abnormal noises such as a squealing or grinding noise. You can also feel for any vibrations in the brake pedal itself, which is a good indicator that the brake pad may be wearing out and should be replaced. Lights. Make sure your lights are working. You should check your headlights, high beams, left and right indicators, both on the front and the back of the vehicle, your hazard indicator lights, your brake lights, and your reverse lights. You should also check that the lights are clean and clearly visible. Battery. Make sure the battery is properly charged and within the normal operating range, shown by the indicator on your dashboard. When inspecting the battery, check to see there are no leaks, no visible corrosion, and that all cables and connections are in good shape and free from wear and tear. And of course, check if the battery itself is secure. Fluids. Make sure your fluid levels are optimal and within normal working range. Fluids you should regularly check include oil levels, brake fluid levels, power steering fluid, engine coolant, and so on. Your vehicle manual will contain a detailed list on how to do this, so make sure to check the manual if you have any doubts. And don't forget to also check and top up your windscreen wiper fluid as needed. Windscreen and windscreen wipers. The windscreen should be free from any cracks and clean. Any dirt or debris should be wiped off prior to the start of your journey. Don't forget to check your wipers as you may need them due to weather or external conditions. You should check the normal operation of your wiper, as well as checking the rubber components are in good working order. In this section, we've discussed the regular periodic inspections that must be carried out according to vehicle manufacturer instructions and legal requirements. We also looked at the main pre-drive checks that you should perform ahead of any journey to ensure that the major components of your vehicle are in good working order. Section 3. The Ericsson Safe Driving Code. The Ericsson Safe Driving Code will help you identify key risks that may lead to an accident when driving, and how you can control those risks. The prevention of accidents can be achieved by following the Ericsson Safe Driving Code: concentration, observation and anticipation, driving attitude, enough space. In addition to the Safe Driving Code, you should know that 3 of the 7 Ericsson Zero Tolerance safety rules relate to driving. These are: always wear a seatbelt whilst driving, do not use your phone and do not exceed speed limits, and no alcohol or drugs while working or driving. Being aware of and applying these rules, as well as the Ericsson Safe Driving Code, could mean the difference between having a vehicle accident and avoiding one. Concentration. There are many factors that can affect your concentration. Some of the obvious ones include using mobile devices, such as mobile phones, GPS devices or laptops, etc. Eating or drinking whilst driving, or smoking whilst driving. These factors must be eliminated completely. In fact, using mobile phones whilst driving is a direct violation of the Ericsson Zero Tolerance rules. Other, less obvious factors that affect your concentration levels include tiredness and fatigue. Let's explore some more factors that can affect our concentration levels. Balanced diet. Maintaining a poor quality diet, such as eating unhealthy food or being dehydrated, can lead to a feeling of excessive tiredness or fatigue. Eating too much or too little plays a role as well. It is important to ensure that you're maintaining a good quality diet with the right type and quantity of foods and liquids. Sleeping patterns. Studies show that feeling sleepy when driving is comparable to being under the influence of alcohol or drugs, as this can affect your reaction time. It's important that you get a good night's sleep. This means you should get a good quality of sleep as well as the right amount of sleep. Under the influence of alcohol or drugs. This is strictly prohibited and a direct violation of the Ericsson Zero Tolerance safety rules. Note that it's important to avoid or minimise alcohol the night before, as you may still be under the influence the following day. Please also be mindful of any prescribed medication which may have an effect on your concentration levels, and take appropriate action. The timing of your journey. The timing of your journey can affect your concentration levels, as you may not be alert during non-peak driving hours, for example during the hours of 2 AM and 6 AM. This is a time that is statistically shown to be high risk due to the high probability of vehicle accidents. You should try to avoid driving during these times if it's possible. If, however, you cannot avoid it, then you must employ additional risk mitigation measures. Longer journeys. Concentration levels can dip on longer, mundane highways where there's very little activity. One tends to acclimatise to a low level of activity, and thus the brain can effectively switch off and stop paying attention to the road. You should account for this risk by breaking your journey into manageable sections, for example by taking regular breaks or planning an overnight stay. This ties back to the journey management section of the course which we covered earlier. So how do we minimise these risks that affect our concentration levels? Well, the first thing is to recognise the danger. Most people think that this would never happen to them. Of course, they'd never fall asleep behind the wheel. However, this is perhaps one of the reasons why accidents related to people falling asleep behind the wheel happen so much, simply because one dismisses the risk before recognising it. Don't make that mistake. Another effective risk mitigation is to take regular breaks. The mind and body are strong and resilient, but need a little break every now and then. A good rule of thumb is to take a 10 to 15 minute break every 2 hours or so. A short nap or a stop and stretch at a designated break area can mean the difference between life and death. Note that some resort to caffeinated drinks such as coffee or energy drinks. These are, in general, not a good idea as they can affect one's regular sleep pattern and overall health. It's much more effective to take a short nap and refresh your mind rather than to take shortcuts. Lastly, one should always explore the possibility of breaking the journey into manageable segments rather than trying to rush a single journey. Let's pause and have a quick test on what you've learnt so far. Please answer the following true or false statements. Now let's summarise this section on concentration. Make sure you eliminate possible distractions whilst driving, such as the use of mobile phones, eating and drinking, and smoking. Always avoid alcohol and drugs and keep in mind that these can also be in your system the following day. It's best to avoid when in doubt. Ensure a good night's sleep. Avoid relying solely on caffeinated drinks. While having a coffee here and there is not a significant health hazard, overly relying on caffeine or energy drinks can be detrimental to you in the long run, especially when you start substituting these for a good night's sleep. Taking regular breaks can be the difference between life and death. You should try to get a 10 to 15 minute break every 2 hours or so, and these breaks should be planned into your journey. And finally, recognise the danger of falling asleep at the wheel. Remember that falling asleep is a significant factor to vehicle accidents and happens more often than you would think. The next section of the Ericsson Driving Code is observation and anticipation. When thinking of observation and anticipation, we need to do the following. Always look for and follow signage. Ensure good visibility so that you can see what's happening around you. And maintain your awareness at all times. Let's look at each of these in more detail. Signage. Make sure to observe and obey any road signage, markings, speed limits and any other symbols you see. Remember that these signs are there to help you and have been placed to warn you of oncoming danger or to inform you of the rules of the road. It's your responsibility to ensure you are aware of and obey these signs. Visibility. Simply put, you cannot react to an incident if you can't see it. In order to maximise your reaction speed, you must ensure all windows, mirrors, etc. are clean and you can readily see them. This also means that cracked mirrors and other defects must be swapped out immediately. Other obstructions, such as mobile phone holders that may be placed on the dashboard or stuck to the windscreen, must also be minimised or removed if they are hindering your visibility. It's essential that you wear corrective lenses if you're prescribed to do so, and it's equally important that you get your eyesight checked on a regular basis. Drivers should also use sunglasses for external factors such as extreme sunlight that can cause eye strain, especially for long drives. Make sure that your eyesight is not neglected in any way. Awareness. It's vital for every driver to be acutely aware of what's going on around them. This doesn't mean being aware of only what's in front of you, but also of your surrounding area. When on a busy road, you should be aware of the traffic moving around behind you and to the sides, as well as any dangers in front. This is accomplished by regularly checking your mirrors and being alert of any changes on the road. When on a quiet road, you should be aware of any sudden changes in road conditions or other external factors, such as an animal crossing the street or potholes. And remember that on roads where there is no traffic, the awareness levels may drop because you naturally fall into a false sense of security. It is at these times that an accident can occur simply because you were least expecting it. Another situation to be extra aware of is whilst driving on two-way roads that have oncoming traffic without barriers or lane dividers. In such cases, the opposing driver may be overtaking or may simply have lost control of the vehicle. You should anticipate such actions when driving so that you can be ready to take appropriate and evasive actions. And remember to also be aware of other road users who may be in smaller vehicles or possibly even on two wheels, such as motorcyclists or bicyclists. These road users are often difficult to see and can be overlooked. They may also be travelling at a slower speed than the rest of the traffic. Have a look at this driving scene and try to identify danger spots which could potentially lead to an accident. Yes, that's correct. By correctly observing and anticipating these potential accidents, you have avoided a potential collision. Here we have another exercise in observation and anticipation. Consider that the vehicle in white is merging onto the highway where you are driving. You are in the red car. What would you do to ensure optimal safe driving practices? Yes, that's correct. After checking your mirrors and ensuring it's safe to do so, you should move your vehicle in such a way that allows for the safe merging of traffic. Another option would have been to slow down slightly. Please note that in most countries there is no legal requirement for you to do this. You could have continued driving and not move your vehicle at all. However, in changing lanes, you are making the road a little bit safer for yourself and those around you by anticipating the traffic's dynamics. And here we have a final exercise in observation and anticipation. What would you do in this situation? Yes, that's correct. You should slow down and take evasive action if needed. You should always anticipate things like head-on collisions and not just sit and continue at the same speed, even though it's the other driver's fault. Let's briefly summarise the observation and anticipation section. Remember to pay attention to and follow the signage that is posted. Ensure that you have good overall visibility. And most of all, make sure that you're aware of what's going on around you, so that you can anticipate well in advance of a hazard. The next section of the Ericsson Driving Code is driving attitude. Have you ever thought that everyone who drives slower than you doesn't know how to drive, and anyone who drives faster than you is a maniac who should be taken off the road? This has to do with your driving attitude, and many times your driving attitude can be what causes an accident. Let's learn a bit more about this. There are many factors that can affect your driving attitude. Many people suffer from a term called road rage. Road rage is defined as a motorist's uncontrolled anger that is usually provoked by another motorist's actions and is expressed in aggressive and violent behaviour. What's interesting is that a person can be completely calm and caring in their everyday life, but when the same person is put behind the wheel of a car, he or she can quite suddenly appear to have what's called road rage. Another factor is your outlook on others. In the earlier example, we saw that one can easily get frustrated with other road users, for example, drivers who are driving too fast or drivers who are driving too slowly. And last but not least, we must not forget the external pressures that are part of day-to-day life. These can be pressures from work as well as your personal life. Things like tight deadlines, disagreements with friends or family, etc. These can all play a part in affecting our driving attitude. So what can we do to affect driving attitude? Well, we can't affect the attitude of others. But what's important to remember is that we do have complete control over our own driving attitude. It may be others who instigate a reaction in your attitude, but your reaction is entirely up to you, and it's you who has the choice to react positively or negatively. No one can take this power away from you, even though it sometimes seems that we are not empowered here. A good way to remain empowered is to remember to breathe. Let's try this exercise. Assume you are driving and someone has just cut you off in front of you. It's not your fault, you are totally in the right, and yet you feel the anger building inside of you. You want to chase that person down and give them a piece of your mind. How dare they behave that way? Now, stop and breathe. Take 3 deep, long breaths before you react. Breathe in and out. Breathe in and out. Breathe in and out. There. You feel more relaxed and calm. A few simple breaths can help calm your nerves and remind you that it's not worth getting aggravated. It's good to practice these deep breathing exercises several times a day. Practicing when you are already in a calm state can help you when it's really time to exercise restraint. So let's summarise driving attitude. There may be several external factors that are beyond your control. However, you are the only one who can affect your driving attitude. Remember that by focusing on your breathing, you can affect your overall attitude. Also, remember that by practicing when you are calm, you will be more prepared when you feel overwhelmed. The last step in our safe driving code is enough space. When driving, or indeed when stationary, it's important to leave enough space from the vehicle in front of you. This can be the difference between life and death, so it's important to know that the space you've made is adequate. Let's look at some stationary examples first. When you're stopped at a traffic light, for example, you should leave enough space from the vehicle in front of you. This is because the vehicle in front of you may roll back a little, or another vehicle may collide with you from behind. Either way, you should ensure there is adequate space for any unforeseen circumstances. A good rule of thumb to remember is tyres and tarmac. This means that you should see the bottom of the tyres of the vehicle in front of you and some of the road that the tyres are touching, i.e. the tarmac. Now let's look at stopping distance requirements when driving. It's impossible for most people to judge the required stopping distance needed in order to avoid a collision. Keep in mind that higher speeds require higher stopping distances. There are also other variables such as road, vehicle, weather and driver conditions that can increase your stopping distance further. This is why it's important to know the 2-second rule. This is a good way to determine an adequate stopping distance, which is time-based rather than distance-based. Let's see how to apply the 2-second rule. When you're driving, you can pick a stationary object on the road or the side of the road. Examples could be a bridge, a tree, or a road marking, etc. When the vehicle in front of you passes the object you have selected, then start counting. 1, 1000. 2, 1000. If your vehicle reaches the same object in under 2 seconds, then you are too close. If there is a situation and the vehicle in front of you brakes, you may not be able to brake in time. Note that during poor weather conditions, such as icy or wet roads, sand or snowstorms, etc., you should increase the 2-second rule to 4 seconds, or even more in particularly adverse conditions. Another important aspect of enough space is ensuring your vehicle gates are clear. So what is a gate? In this context, the vehicle gates are the available spaces around your vehicle. You have a front gate, a rear gate, a left gate and a right gate. Good driving practice is to try and keep as many of these gates as empty as possible. It's also important to be aware of your available gates at all times. This is because you can use these available gates in an emergency situation to avoid collisions. Let's do an exercise on gates. In this graphic, select which of the spaces you think is the safest to drive in. Note that you can pick more than one option. That's correct. Either option A or C would be good. Option B is not as safe as option A, as two of your gates, the left and the right, are not available. This means in the event of an emergency situation, you cannot take evasive action and your options are limited. If you find yourself in a position such as option B, then you should try to either accelerate to option A or slow down to option C, where you have at least one available gate to the left. Remember that your gates are always changing, so it's important to be aware of the traffic movement around you, especially on high-speed roads. It's also important to be aware of other drivers' gates as well as your own. The reason being that you should avoid putting others in tight situations, and at the same time you should be aware of other drivers' blind spots. In this example, we're approaching a bus from behind. Where would you position yourself to overtake this bus? That's correct. You should keep yourself visible to the bus driver at all times. So if you were to accelerate and approach the bus from the furthermost lane, then it's more likely that the driver will see you and take that into account. Whereas if you were to approach the bus driver's immediate gate, it's highly unlikely that the bus driver could see you, and even less likely that the driver can avoid colliding with you if any evasive action were suddenly required. Let's summarise this section. Remember, always leave enough space when stationary and when driving. When stationary, make sure you see the tyres and tarmac from the car in front of you. When driving, remember the 2-second rule, or the 4-second rule that applies for bad weather conditions. Remember to keep your gates clear, and remember to notice blind spots, not only your own, but also others who may not see you. In this section, we covered the Ericsson Safe Driving Code. To recap, the code stands for concentration, observation and anticipation, driving attitude, and enough space. Ensuring you optimize your concentration levels, maintain high levels of observation, keep a positive driving attitude, and make sure you have enough space can all mean the difference between life and death. With the knowledge of this code, you are now empowered to maintain a safe driving paradigm throughout your life. You have now completed this course on safe driving. In this course we covered the following: how to plan your journey effectively, starting from the use of technology to attend meetings virtually, to planning rest breaks within a necessary journey plan. How to perform basic visual pre-driving safety checks to ensure your vehicle is free from foreseeable defects. And the Ericsson Safe Driving Code, and how the adoption of some simple driving control measures can minimise the risks of accidents when driving. We hope that the guidelines within this course will help you in being a safer driver, and that you will continue to learn and implement more safe driving techniques throughout your life. Remember that this course is not a substitute for a professional driving course. Should you need to pursue such a course, please contact your local OHS personnel. Thanks for your time. Be safe, drive smart.